Hello, everyone, and welcome to SUGTalks. I'm Gerren Mayne, host of SAPCHAT, and I'm joined today by Simon Nichols, founder and CEO of Thrive, for a very special 100th episode of SUGTalks. Today, SUGTalks regular host Craig Dale is going to be in the interview chair as we look back at how the podcast came about and some of the highlights from the past 99 episodes. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. So, Craig, here we go. You start your podcast off with an icebreaker. So let's go. All right, you're beginning to worry now, aren't you? So
I'm very nervous.
Well, you should be. You should be. But we're going to go easy. We're going to go easy. Simon and I chatted about this before, and we're going to have one at the end. But here we go. So, what would your dream podcast episode look like?
Oh, there we go. So if we say look like, it immediately came to mind there that, we may be videoing it. So what about, so maybe in a Barbados beach, chatting to, here we go, Ian Botham and Vivian Richards. There we are.
Oh, I didn't know you were a cricket man.
Oh, yes.
There you go. You learn something every day. Simon, what about you?
I was sort of hoping that Craig would say maybe just sort of, recording the 100th episode with two of his besties, the Symeister and the Gerren man, but apparently not. My ideal podcast. Do you know what? I've often thought what that would be. I'm not a cricket man, as Craig as Craig has highlighted on many of these episodes. Nor am I a football man, etc. But I think that I actually like to be guests. I mean, I did run my own podcast, and I know Gerren, you do as well. But I do like to be guests on these. So I'd like to sit back and I'd actually like to be interviewed alongside my best friend Craig Dale and Gerren, and our interviewer be Stephen Fry. I think that would be quite a nice podcast episode. I don't know if Chris, our wonderful producer, can arrange that for us, but you can only ask, can't you, Gerren?
Well, you can. I mean, I was thinking for myself. I mean, probably a perfect episode would be one where I didn't have any buffering or internet problems. That would take a lot of the pain away. I know we've had our fair shares of technical problems this morning, gentlemen, before we managed to get to the point we actually physically recorded. I think also, if I was being a little bit greedy, because I run an SAP podcast as well, I would like Christian Klein to be on. I mean, that would be the nirvana. I mean, little old me. I don't know if Christian is listening, and I know he does. Maybe just consider being. But that's all I'm saying. Right? Okay. Let's get down to serious business because Craig is looking. I can see him on the screen. He's looking very nervous. He's thinking, "What have I done here?" Okay. So to start things off, Craig, and getting back to a more serious note, could you tell us how SUGTalks came about?
Yeah, it was interesting actually. It was Matt and I. So Matthew Dale, who worked at the user group, is now a turnkey. We were visiting partners in London, and we were walking between meetings, and we were just chatting about communication channels, and we started chatting about podcasts and how they were good, quick 30 minutes kind of hit with information when you're out walking the dog or commuting. So it was back in 2019 we had that conversation. We started thinking about it back then. We didn't have the resource at that time, but then we brought in a young lady to run marketing for us, Beth, and we started looking at it a bit more in earnest, and we're working with an organisation called Consort Strategy, and their MD Andrew Chamberlain. They were in the association space, and I met them through the Institute of Association Leadership, and we just started talking about these things, and they manage podcasts, so thought give it a whirl. And our first podcast producer was a lovely young lady called Issy Carroll, and off we went. Started looking at topics, what we could do, and way back then it was very time intensive. So that's kind of how it came about in the main, looking at a new communication medium for the SAP community.
And walking along the streets of London, having a conversation where all great ideas come from. So what was the main aim of the podcast then, Craig?
I think from that, it's, to provide an easy to consume communication channel for the community and beyond, really, because I'm sure we may touch on it or not, but we expand outside of the reach of SAP as well with the topics that we cover, and so we try to pull together as many kind of people as we can from the length and breadth of the SAP world and beyond that have insights into topics that we think will be useful for our membership and the SAP community at large, really, in an easy to consume fashion. Like you said, whether you're walking the dog, commuting, etc., hopefully half-hour hit and you get the information you need on some key topics.
Craig, incredible origin story. Reminded me a little bit of Thor in Marvel, how sort of how things came about. I was really hoping it was you were going to say because you were a guest on my podcast and you thought that would be a good thing to do. But once again, like everything in this podcast, I'm horribly let down. Gerren, did Craig come on your podcast as well?
Well, look, I was going to say I should give a big call out for Craig here and the user group, because I had an idea of SAPCHAT, and I thought I need somebody to be a guest on my very first show. And you can understand how difficult it is phoning somebody up and saying, would you like to be a guest on my show? Sure. What's it called? Well, SAPCHAT. But where can I listen to previous episodes, get a view of whether I want to be a guest or not? It's like, well, you're the first guest. And actually, bless him, Craig, you did. You came on. You were my very, very first guest. So, I've got a lot to thank Craig for taking the plunge and the risk in coming on to SAPCHAT.
I was indeed. And it was an honour to be on both of your podcasts.
Oh, bless. We'll pay you later. The check's in the post.
So, thank you. If anyone doesn't know Craig personally, I mean, obviously, hopefully the rapport and the interaction that goes on. Craig is a very good friend of both mine and Gerren, but he is a very good egg, giving up his time on all sorts of things, not only his current charity missions that I know he's doing as well, but yeah, he's been a huge supporter of both mine and Gerren in our personal lives as well as in our work lives. So we're using this episode, the Craig Dale episode, to say thank you for all of that. Again, Craig, amazing origin story. But how do you think that, how has it evolved since that first episode? And I'm going to add to that as well, because I always like adding to questions. How has this evolved since its inception? But how have you listened to your first episode again to see where you are now? Just an interesting thought.
Good and very interesting question. Evolution was I think the learning curve was quite steep, mainly because I think we launched this, we were starting to look at episodes in very early 2020. Then, of course, COVID hit. So that evolution kind of was triggered a lot by COVID, because when we saw the impact that lockdowns were having in and around our community, from whether it was staff, volunteers, and members, we had a conversation, Simon, you and I, around, okay, what can we do for the community around supporting them through this, if you like, COVID era, to help with their mental health. And, that was where I think our partnership with Thrive really took off and, to be honest, thrived, for want of using your company word. But, and, from that, if you look at that evolution, we moved from just being SAP into that mental health side and supporting our members. And a very proud moment, I think, for us and the podcast was in 2021 ERP Today Awards, when we were highly commended in the COVID-19 Hero Customer Award. And, that was great and testament to the work that had gone in from everybody into the podcast and to supporting our members through that time. But, if you look at it, we brought in leadership interviews, which I really do enjoy from within the community, thought leadership discussions, and it's kind of evolved quite a lot and expanded on the topics, and even if you like, thought leadership discussions outside of the world of SAP. I think we've had Victoria Pritchard on public speaking, Samantha Rocky, psychology of successful groups, and Katie King on leveraging AI for business success. So lots of different people from different walks of life. And back to your question about have I re-listened to the first episode, I have, but not for a while. And I think where we've come from in that one, the quality of the recording, should see or hear, should I say, a vast difference in the quality of that recording to where we are today and how we've kind of improved our technology, I suppose, in recording these and the production of these episodes, but also in how we work with our guests to ensure that everything's right from their side too.
That's a great answer, and I personally, having been in those early days, I've seen the evolution as well, and we're here at the 100th episode, and it'd be interesting to see because quite often, I mean, not many podcasts get to 100 episodes. This is a huge milestone. And in many cases, not many sort of, I mean, let's get to the heart of what we are. Although we're sort of, we talk about community and that, it's still, very much a business podcast. So, I think it's testament to you, to the team, and obviously your wonderful guests that it is still where it is. As we've discussed, obviously that you were guests on both mine and Gerren's podcasts at the beginning there, and obviously you've segued very easily, I guess, from your cool dulcet tones now. How did you move from guest, to main presenter? Was there anything that you felt was maybe a little bit tough at the beginning, maybe outside of your comfort zone?
I hate listening to my own voice, and that when back in the days when you used to always change your voicemail messages on the mobile and things, and you used to listen to it back, and you say, "Oh, I hate my voice," and that was difficult. I felt. I mean, I hate my picture being taken too, But anyway, that's just me. But when I listened to the first one back, I was thinking, "Oh my God, what do I sound like?" This northerner, these northern dulcet tones coming across. But I've got used to it now. So yeah, I think it was a step outside of my comfort zone doing that. But the bonus is, I feel that we're here, or I'm here to listen to the guests. So the least I talk, the better. So then I don't have to listen to my voice as much either. So I think that's my view on that.
Yeah, I think we can all have that sort of thing. I joke about, and Gerren, as we've both got brilliant voices for radio, but not necessarily great faces for television. But even like yourself, I mean, I listen to myself back sometimes, and I'm thinking, have I got a really bad lisp like that in real life? Is that is that my is that how I talk? And yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think you've got an incredible voice, and the multitude of listeners, the thousands of listeners that SUGTalks has had will prove testament to that. Um, Right at the
Cheers.
beginning, we had an icebreaker, didn't we? Lovely Gerren done the icebreaker. But I thought it was a bit, there's two presenters today, so I think we should have two icebreaker questions. So what I'm doing basically, Craig, is mentally preparing you for an icebreaker that you have no idea what's going to be asked. But before I ask you the icebreaker, just to leave you sitting on the edge of your seat just for a little while longer. Um, who came up with the idea of the icebreaker question? And apart from the one where you ridiculed me about not having any inkling of sport knowledge whatsoever, what's been your best icebreaker that you've come up with?
I think so. I'd listened to podcasts before, and I think it was also I was listening. Was it a? I think it was Chris Moyles on the radio one morning. He was interviewing someone. He just threw a random question at the beginning. I thought, you know what, that's really good to start something off. That it just hopefully it helps people relax a bit. It's a bit light-hearted and gets a conversation going before we move into the main topic. It hasn't always worked. I mean, if you do listen to that first episode that we ever recorded, I thought I was being quite cool with a little question, I think, about if aliens kind of came to Earth and asked you to go with them, would you? And I forgot about kind of language barriers as well, because on that one, I think I had Philip Adams, one of our board members and SUGTalks and CLT members, and also Jean-Marie Parancin, who's Italian, now resides in France, and it didn't really come across on the language barrier, and you can really see that in that episode. So yeah. And my favourite one, to be perfectly honest, is the simplest. It's what's your favourite cheese? I just love that one because I think it just kicks in people. What? Cheese? What? But it just gets it started. That's my favourite.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UK&I sub membership with those who don't know about us? The UK&I Sub Referral Scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
I think we had a lengthy conversation about whether fruit should be allowed in cheese and whether Wensleydale is actually a cheese or 5 a day item. But
With
Craig,
both.
it is. Craig, get ready for your second icebreaker. As I said, I think you often ask icebreakers associated with your passion, which is sport. So what I'd like to do is turn that on its head a little bit, Craig. And where's your favourite place to go twitching or bird watching? And what's your favourite bird?
My favourite bird has to be the canary. We had when I was growing up, we had a budgie and Joey, and he was lovely. But then we had a canary called Barnaby, and he was absolutely brilliant. But we also had a cat, and the cat used to sit on the top of the sofa, just sat looking longingly into young Barnaby's cage, and I'm sure he didn't want to just eat him, that he was looking at him with friendly eyes. But yeah, I think canary. And my favourite twitching location, there's a little set of woods near where I live called Fairy Dell, and you get lots of different wildlife there. And I suppose that's where I probably see the most bird life, but also a local park near me as well has lots of ducks, geese and things, and they do come over to say hello. But of course, remember what Mum always used to tell you, ooh, them swan can break your arm with their beaks, be careful. But yeah, that would be for me.
That's wonderful. You actually, there's when you go back to your childhood like that, you think, well, did Craig really have a canary called Barnaby, or did he just recite an episode of Tweety Pie there? Because it just sounded it sounded very good. Brilliant. Thank you, Craig. Good, there you go. Good icebreaker as well. I've got one last question before I'm going to seamlessly segue back to my awesome co-presenter. Bearing in mind that Gerren and I have been on, SUGTalks multiple times. What's been your favourite episode that you've recorded so far? And to get you off the hook, you don't have to say it's one of ours.
Yeah, that's right. We'll give you. We'll let you off. So it's not so difficult for you, Craig.
Well, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I don't think I can pinpoint a favourite. I really don't. one doesn't spring to mind because, to be honest, I enjoy them all because I think every single episode I learn something new. And that's what I really take from these, whether I'm talking to you about different mental health topics, whether I'm talking to SAP experts, whether I'm talking to the people from the world of leadership, etc. I always take something away from each episode. And I don't think I have a favourite, to be honest. I'm sorry.
A very, very good, easy way to get out of that question.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm disappointed, but look, let's twist it a little bit then, Craig, because you and I were talking about, and Simon, about our respective podcasts, and you do look at the viewing the listening numbers for each of the episodes, and I must admit, from my own experience, some of those episodes that you record that you think that might not be so popular end up being very popular. So, I mean, you've some of the most popular episodes that you've recorded over those 100 have been very technical topics like HCM, success factors, Signavio. Why do you think those technical topics appeal so much to your listeners?
I'm not sure whether it's the technical elements or whether it's the overall topic that matters to our members and the overall community. And, I suppose it's those topics that perhaps have impact on them. On the jobs, potentially their future. You talk about the HCM one, which I still think is riding high at the top of the charts, and that's looking at the future of SAP human capital management as it was then. And, so we have quite a big HR community and payroll community. So for those people understanding what's happening in the world of SAP now, that can impact them, their job, and potentially their future. I think that's what maybe makes those episodes so popular. And, if I think that, so for instance, we released an episode on demystifying the clean core, which is quite a popular topic out there at the moment. And even though that was released less than a month ago, I think it's currently made its way into the top 10 of all episodes. And it was only released 3 to 4 weeks ago. So it's the topic, I think, and this is one of the challenges, is how do we hit the topics that are relevant and that matter to SAP customers, partners, SAP themselves, to really get people listening.
Yeah, it's fascinating and a huge achievement for a relatively recent episode to be flying that high. You really do know you've hit the mark then. I've got to say that, as a podcaster myself, you do get feedback, some positive, some not so positive. And it's really interesting and it's really helpful. But do you get any feedback from SAP themselves on SUGTalks?
Yeah, I think from various people, I've received quite a few positive comments from numerous people within SAP and also the partner community. And, I suppose from our perspective, being SAP user group, in representing our members, we can sometimes be seen as challenging to SAP and not always be overly popular, perhaps, inside SAP. But ultimately, we're probably the biggest advocates for SAP in the world of SAP. And, I think the podcast is really giving us a way to have a discussion with SAP and with customers and with partners around key topics that affect SAP customers and bring insights from those key people to deliver a positive message to the community. So I think that has been mentioned to me, that, you can see that positive advocacy through the topics that are being discussed on the podcast. So, and I'd like to think as well that the SAP people that come on the podcast really enjoy the discussions. So some a repeat guests, which is always good.
Excellent. No, Simon, I know I'm going to pass the baton to you now.
It's like I think the coolest relay team we've got here. I'm just wondering if this just becomes a it is seamless. Yeah, I'm just wondering if this becomes a regular item. I just think there's just an air of je ne sais quoi to the proceedings. I think, Gerren. Um, I just want to put it out there as well because Craig and Gerren sort of sometimes get quite serious with SAP. And there might be a lot of people who listen to think this mental health chat. What's he doing on SUGTalks? Who is he? What is he anyway? And I should point out that I used to be an SAP basis consultant, and then I moved into SAP sales and all of that fancy malarkey. So I actually understand. I don't necessarily get it anymore, but I understand what Craig and Gerren are talking about, and I think that's what's helped me on these things is that sometimes if we do go in the world of techie, I can at least vaguely understand it. I wasn't a very good techie, but at least I've got my roots in there. Hence how I know these wonderful people from my previous life. But we I've been supremely honoured and proud, and I genuinely have no idea. I'm hoping that Chris at some stage will tell me how many episodes I've assisted with some hopefully some hints and tips around mental health. But we are, and I feel very fortunate to be a regular staple almost from those early days. I know we sort of said earlier about the COVID influence, but COVID's been and gone now, Craig, and which we both know is a lie, and but we still talk about it and the ramifications of that. But in the world of the jobbing consultant, why are you keeping me on, Craig? Why are we continuing to talk about mental health?
Simon, that's a question we've all been asking, Craig.
Well, I just think it's because of the value you can provide, Simon. There you go. But no, I think, when we waved goodbye to the COVID era, if you like, we felt this was still a very important subject to discuss because it's something for every individual. When we look at kind of associations and membership and our membership, we like to try and give our members something back to them individually. So if you look at Connect, for instance, so if we look at the conference each year, we try to do a non-SAP session, a keynote on whether it's motivation, whether it's team building, whether it's networking. That is something that we want to give back to each individual member. And I think this adds so much value, and, beyond the podcast, Simon, there's webinars, you do regular webinars for us and for our members. And I just think it's a very important subject. So we made the conscious decision that, we will continue this and make it, as you say, a staple of our podcast topics and continue well into the future. And, I think, when we look at that, and I think you've mentioned on numerous occasions when we've talked this in the podcasts and when we talk about it in person as well, that if we can just help one person through a webinar, through a podcast, or through the events that you're at, it's all worthwhile. And that's what it's all about.
Thank you very much, and you very nicely segued the awesome Connect. And as we know, it's rapidly approaching. And there was unfortunately half of the A team couldn't make it last year, but I know that in the same way as the Blues Brothers happened. I'm just wondering, we've recorded episodes at Connect. The event's coming up. I don't want to put you on the spot, but You know, is Elwood, now he's back on the team? Are the Blues Brothers going to be doing the same recording this year at Connect? What do you think, Craig?
Well, why not? Certainly looking
Hey.
to do things at Connect and looking at episodes. And Chris will be very happy. I've started thinking about topics and potential guests at Connect. The challenge is time. You know, Connect is a
Yeah,
whirlwind. I arrive in Birmingham on the Saturday. The next thing I know, it's Wednesday. And it's like you step into a TARDIS and it just whizzes you forward for 3 days, and that's the big factor, time. So I'm looking at time and how we can factor it in. And Tuesday is always challenging. I'm not sure why. I've often struggled with my voice on a Tuesday. Nothing to do with Sugfest, of course, but yeah. So yeah, we will be doing something, guys.
I can't speak for Gerren, but because Gerren will be speaking in a moment. But I just I find those little those timeouts, especially when we record a few podcasts, and Gerren and I
Mm.
recorded a couple, and it's just I find it so relaxing to come off of the shop floor effectively, where the hurly burly, and just sit down and you're having a chat with a couple of mates, but actually what that means is that that what we're talking about is actually going on and impacting people. So I don't know, Gerren, is that your thoughts as well? Do you I enjoy doing.
I do immensely, but I agree with Craig. I find them incredibly difficult to carve the time out because there's just so much going on. Having said that, if you can carve the time out, I really like doing something myself, round about midday on the Monday after the keynotes, just to take the time out and reflect on what have we heard, what does it mean, what are SAP saying, what are we hearing from the conference floor, and that I find really really useful, but incredibly challenging to carve the time out. Really
Yeah.
challenging.
I'm
But
just wondering,
taking,
Joe, and
mm,
is there a place here for Connect Radio with two, wonderful presenters? I don't know.
ni-
We'll throw that one over to
nice,
Chris.
nice and smashy, Birmingham. Yeah, we'll get the kind of levers going. Well, on that bombshell, and taking a slightly different tangent, if I may, in a wider sense, Craig, can you give us any details and plans on the wider Connect? We've talked. Simon's talked a bit about podcasting, but actually, the whole event is rapidly coming up, and it's a huge undertaking. So, what are the plans? What are the kind of big takeaways for this year? If you can kind of divulge your secrets.
Well, yeah, rapidly approaching indeed. It's certainly consuming a lot of our time at the moment. As we're recording this, we're avidly putting the program together. The program is launched September. We've got a great lineup, customers, partners, and SAP speakers. So that's all working really well. We've got some extra topics this year, as we have what we're calling TechX at Connect, which is SAP's TechEd on tour. So SAP run TechEd virtual in October, and what they are doing is taking it around the world, if you like, on tour stops and running in face-to-face. So there will be ASUG Tech Connect in November. You will have the Australian user group running, I think, SOGX in Melbourne in November. And then those lucky enough can come to Birmingham in December. I mean, who'd want to go to Florida or Melbourne in November when you can come to Birmingham in December?
Wow. And what can I say, Craig? And there's normally a Ferris wheel outside the front door as well.
Yeah,
What's not to like?
exactly. And DSAG will be running theirs in April of 2025, I believe, as well. So, yeah, Tech Ed, we're bringing some technical subjects in. There's going to be numerous sessions, lots of hands-on workshops, hands-on lab sessions, there's lectures. We're working with SAP and building that program out, and that again is launched very soon. And yeah, so there's lots going on there. And of course, we have SUGFest, which this year, as we're in December, is SUGFest on the slopes. So we will be doing a winter stroke skiing themed SUGFest this year.
Well, you're pleased to know I've bought my lederhosen all ready for the event. I understood that's obligatory this year, is it?
Perfect. We have an après ski lounge just waiting for you. And for those who like a game, we also have an area called Peace and Play. So use that play on words all you want.
You couldn't say that after a drink, could you? One thing I'd like to ask you about is, you're sat there. I know the challenge of trying to book guests and everything else, the planning around it. But is there anyone in particular you'd like to interview for future episodes?
I think from the world of SAP, you mentioned Christian Klein, who would be an absolute coup to get on. But I'm really looking forward to an episode that I have planned coming up later this year with Thomas Sauersig, as I think he is superb and executive board member of SAP. He's transitioned now to kind of leading the cloud organisation, and I always look back at Thomas and what he's done is he was always the champion of the product, and now helping customers on that transition to cloud. I think he's now hopefully the champion of the customer, and I'm really, really looking forward to that conversation.
Well, that sounds stunning, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to that. So as we draw to a close, Craig, what's your hope for the podcast for the next 100 episodes? How do you see it shaping up and evolving? Because we talked about evolving at the beginning, didn't we? How you started with the first episode and that rapid kind of learning curve. But where do you, now you're into your groove, I think it's fair to say that after 100 episodes, you're into your groove. But where do you see it going?
I would hope it continues to grow. We've seen the amount of downloads. We hit 10,000 downloads a month or so ago, so that was really, really good. And I hope that the growth continues. But I think I also hope we continue to learn. To learn how to continue to deliver more value through it for the community. So we can hopefully ride on the cusp, I suppose, of topics that really matter to the community, and we don't drop away from that. I.e., I think we said earlier on, like, not all podcasts get to 100 episodes, and and I think for that we have to keep the content right and keep the content at the level that our members and the wider community need. So as long as we can continue to learn and deliver that value on the topics for the community, that for me is key to the success. And maybe find a new voice to host as well.
Well, Simon and I are always free.
Do you know what? On that note, if anyone is listening and does want to book Gerren and Simon, or Simon and Gerren, depending on which way you go, then we are available for hire, weddings, bar mitzvahs, and all other occasions.
And I can see Chris, the prod manager, is sort of sweating now about the amount of editing that he's going to have to do and cutting out of this whole episode. But anyway, Craig, look, congratulations, both to you and to the user group. 100 episodes is no mean feat. It takes a huge amount of effort, sweat, determination, and charisma to get to that point. So congratulations. And I just say to everyone, thank you for listening to our special 100th episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. variable in parts maybe, but please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our future episodes. And until next time, stay safe and stay happy.